Yes, they took me to the first closest hospital, but that hospital didn't have any cardiac care, so they sent me on in another ambulance to another hospital that was about a half hour away. And I remember hearing the sirens and the lights, and then I would come back and then leave again. And by the time I got to the second hospital in emergency, I was still having an irregular heartbeat, and they didn't know what it was, and they had no idea. So they decided that they would keep me overnight under observation. And so, as I said, that happened early in the morning, about 7 o'clock. And I don't know what time I arrived at the hospital, but with all their tests and everything, I didn't get into the critical care area until probably noon or so. And I was in there, I was watching TV, and I was seemingly just fine. And then I wasn't. Then I was in this grandeur beyond expression. It was so hard to describe. It was cinematic, and it was like having surround sound in the movie theater. And the quality that I was experiencing of the colors and the sound was like that cinematic, feeling it in your body, almost like being of it. And I was trying to distinguish, well, was this singing? Was it a choir? Was it instruments? It was music, but it was such a quality that it was much more refined. And as I said, you were penetrated by it. And the colors were just ecstatic. It reminded me of acrylics, if anybody's familiar with that. It's so intense and pure and vibrant, and these were alive, and it was as though they were intelligence that was communicating with me, impressing me in certain ways, highly sensory and energetic in the experience of that. And that went on for some time for me, trying to relate to these things because they were so refined and sensuous, and I was of them. There was no separation. There wasn't really a distinction. I mean, I was like a spark in the midst of this grand fireworks display. So in going through that, other things happened and came about, and I had different energies happening to where I had this sensation of energy coming in from, I had like a feeling of a form that was kind of oval shape as myself, an energy body. And this energy was coming in from the bottom, and it was like it couldn't quite make it all the way through, and it kept building and building and building. And I felt like I was a balloon just being blown up and expanded by this blissful feeling. And I had no frame of reference for it. And I said, "What is that?" And it was like this angel choir just saying, "Joy, joy, joy." And it just burst up through me like a fountain of energy, just gushing out this golden white light. And then once that happened, I had this experience of feeling that there was another energy being off to my left. And so I looked to the left, and there was a form of energy. I don't know exactly how to say it, but it was like energy or concentrated fireworks that was coming out, but it was holding its form. It was very big, and it was golden and sparkling and beautiful. And I knew that entity. I knew I had known and loved and treasured that entity for eons of time, and that they also knew who I was in truth, not this little speck of personality, Randa, but my essential self. We knew each other on that level. Whenever I would question inside myself or speak it out loud, I would immediately get an answer. And so with this entity that was here, and since I did know it, but I knew I should know it otherwise also, that its presence here had meaning. And so I had this sensation, and it was almost like it was a texture, kind of like a flavor, and then more like a scent. And I had this experience of Chanel No. 5, and this fragrance. And my mom was a kind of a large, sturdy, soft kind of person. And when she would choose to love you and embrace you, it was real marshmallowy. And I got all that sensation. And then the image became my mother of this lifetime. And I was impressed with the message that I am so glad to be with you again. The closest thing that I had to a life review was this hand came out, only it was like this. And there was like a large card deck on it. And a card fell off and turned itself over so I could see the face card. And so that would be like if you put this camera on pause and it created a picture. And so then when I saw that picture, I recognized who I was, not in this lifetime, in another lifetime. And there were principal players of people that I had had impact on in that life for benefit or harm, whether it was intentional or not. That however I had dramatically affected these people, they were there in that frame. And I experienced myself as I was. It was as though I, just seeing and recognizing that, I was of them. I had their full, complete history of experience, so I had true knowing. And each person that was there, I had true knowing of them and could feel and see and know their context and their perspective of their hurt or their joy, their gifting from me, whatever it was. And another card fell. And each one of these, I managed to keep up and remember for about 3 lives. And then by the time I was at 5, I went, okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to hold all this information. And I couldn't. But I was able to experience, it was probably about 15 of these cards that fell. And it was made known to me as that each one of these lives had contributed to the things I had chosen to learn, clear up, move through, refine in this lifetime. That it was quite a while into the experience before I realized that, hey, wait a minute, this is different. This is not just an out-of-body experience. It's not like a self-hypnosis kind of experience or astral traveling. It wasn't like any of those things. It was so much more. Everything was so alive, and you're welcomed, you're beloved, and you are embraced, and you're cherished beyond our ability to conceive. And so there's just so much for me that was going on sensorially, and even there were other beings and there were different colors of light that I knew were expressing to me on different levels of my being and messaging me and imparting things to me that weren't language, but somehow I knew that it was important and it would make a difference and it would keep me open to receive things in the future that would be beneficial. I was there through that experience, which was into that night. I was brought back and stabilized. And then because my heart showed to be so undependable in its rhythm, they scheduled me to get a pacemaker as soon as possible.